Well, today we are diving into a topic that's often avoided but incredibly important, talking to your parents about estate planning. It's not the easiest conversation to have, but it is one that can bring clarity and peace for everyone involved. And here to prepare us for that conversation is the president of Safe Harbor Retirement Group, Corey Sickles. Always great to see you.
Great to be here.
And this is, like we said, a very important topic, Corey. Why do you think it is such a difficult conversation?
You know, being a financial advisor, you know, it seems like we have all the fun conversations with clients, right? Whether it's money or this.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple things. One is I don't think your parents like to let you know about finances. That's because that's really what you're doing is you open up about that. But I think more importantly, now they're also starting to think about them passing away. And I think it becomes something that's very uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, I think it's a conversation everybody needs to have.
Yeah. So what all goes into estate planning, right? What questions should they be answering when they're doing this?
Yeah, I think one of the things that really what I'm talking about is make sure you're going to avoid probate, but more importantly, make sure your assets go to where you want them to go. That's really what it's all about. And I think a lot of people think, hey, I've done a will, everything's good. What they don't realize is a will just says all my assets are going to probate. The question is, are they set up to go where you truly want them to go?
Yeah.
And it can cause family conflict if you don't actually set this stuff up the right way and don't have these discussions, especially if someone's going to get blindsided later on.
Yeah, and we want to avoid as much drama as possible. So how do we start this conversation? Is it something that we should plan, or is it something, you know, spur of the moment conversation?
You know, one of the things that I would probably say, first of all, you want to have that conversation. Hopefully, maybe you and your other siblings are there. I mean, you know, just more than probably just you.
Right.
But you also have to be careful when that takes place. You want it to be quiet. Sometimes holidays are not the best time to actually have this discussion because especially if they're coming in or you're going in, they're stressful, there's traveling, there's a lot of people in the house that normally aren't in the house. So I'd be careful about doing that. I know that now it might be the only time you and your siblings are all together, but again, you have to kind of make sure that it's in a relaxed environment when you have those type of discussions.
Yeah. So Christmas might not be the best time, right? So how do you really best approach this? So you talked about, you know, we don't want any drama. We don't want any unnecessary tension, you know, and I think sometimes, like you said, it's a very difficult conversation. And so sometimes parents may even try to avoid it, you know, so how can we approach this?
Yeah, I think sometimes some of the best things, you have to make sure they understand it's about them and it's not about you. One thing they might think is I'm just doing this to make sure I get my fair share of it. But you have to make sure they understand it's about, you know, we're doing this because we want everything to go the right way, where you want it to be able to go, right? And I think another tough discussion to have or to be able to talk about it, hopefully you've already done this because now you can share an example of, you know, hey, we went through all this, whatever, a year or two ago, or we just got all this stuff set up. We want to make sure that if something happens to us, our kids are taken care of. So I think, you know, if you can relate on maybe why you did that, and show some empathy about the whole situation, I think they'll be a little bit more open to it.
Yeah, so being relatable, and I think also making sure that you do the research, maybe if you haven't done it on your own, right?
That's
making sure you go into the conversation knowing what you're talking about. And then also, I think if you haven't done it, right, saying, I'll do it with you. I'm sure that kind of helps too.
Yeah. You know, obviously, depending on where they are in age, you know, you'll help them get the documents. You'll maybe research the attorneys or whatever needs to actually take place. But I do think that's very important to be able to, you know, help them show, but more importantly, show the empathy, and you have to make sure they understand, you know, it's about them. And you might have other examples. You remember Aunt Sandy went through all this, right? And all of her kids. It was a disaster with, you know, because they had to wait on their money for probate. It ended up having a family fight. So if you have examples like that or that they might know about, it's always good to say, you know, how bad it can really be if you don't actually do it the way you want to.
Yeah, so we've started the conversation. What about being productive? How can we make sure that we keep the conversation going?
It might not be, you're exactly right. It might not be a one-time conversation.
Okay.
You might have to have multiple because
Yeah.
there's things to be able to do.
Yeah, and
But
that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is to get it started
Okay.
and set some goals on when they maybe want to try to get things accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
And again, help them out. Go out and get the documents. Help them find all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Set up the meetings with the attorneys. Go to the meetings with the attorneys or the financial advisor as you kind of go through this process as well to show them that you care.
Okay, very helpful advice, definitely for me as well. Any other pieces of advice that you can offer?
No, I mean, here, obviously, I can tell you this. A lot of times when people come in and we have these discussions, it's the first time that they've actually have done that. And I'd reach out to an advisor because an advisor knows how to talk to a client about all this type of stuff and set up meetings with attorneys. But if you come in to meet with us, every meeting's complimentary, no financial obligation. We're here to help to make sure that you get, in this case, get your estate plan in place.
Okay, where can they contact you? And you have 2 locations,
Yes.
right? So what's that information?
You can always give us a call at 614-760-0670 or visit our website at safeharboroh.com, and we have a location in Dublin and then Easton.
Okay, again, if you're thinking about having this conversation during Christmas, think twice, right?
I would say yes.
Okay. All right, thanks so much, Corey.